Hello there guys, this is Battlefield 1, which is a fairly old game, but definitely one of the best shooters ever made in my opinion, and this is the Tsaritsyn map from the Name of the Tsar DLC, and what I'm aiming to do today is to provide a few minutes of gameplay on this map using realistic weapons, unlike what you see in the majority of Battlefield 1, which is a very steampunk interpretation of the war. I think their mantra was effectively, if it existed in any capacity, even if that's just in Q's laboratory somewhere in the world, then they'll throw it in, which, of course that's fair in a Battlefield game. You want the SMGs and the assault rifles, which are things that didn't really exist back in World War One, or if they did, it was in very limited capacity towards the end of the war. Famous example being the MP18. That's the starting weapon for the assault class in this game, and it didn't appear until 1918 and was used by German stormtroopers during the closing stages of the war. Very effective weapon, but came much too late to really alter the outcome. But my loadout here is the Scout class, my personal favourite, and as we're deep into the Russian Civil War here, playing as the Red Army, I'm using the Mosin-Nagant marksman with the scope. They weren't too widespread in the war, but obviously they had snipers, there were plenty of them, and I'm using the Nagant revolver pistol. Very hard hitting 7-shot revolver, most were 6 back then, but it's a perfectly accurate weapon. They did have them during the Russian Civil War and World War One, and well beyond that. It's a very good weapon in this game, and it has a neat little trick at the end where if you fire all 7 rounds rather than loading them one by one as you have to do with most side loading revolvers, you can pop the cylinder out and replace it with another one, which makes it very compelling. It can definitely hold its own against what's recognised as, I think, one of the best pistols in the game, the Mark 6 revolver, which is useful because it's hard hitting and it's a break action, but this option to speed the reload up definitely helps. I'm not sure why they couldn't do that with most of the revolvers, because pretty much any revolver you can take the cylinder out if you so choose, and again I'm not sure how realistic that is, but I'm not going to complain. It definitely makes the Nagant a lot easier to use. What you're about to see here is I'm about to go after a cavalry horse with it, which just demonstrates its stopping power. Normally I'd recommend the Mars auto pistol for going up against horses, but this definitely holds its own equally. And this map and all of the weapons, the Mosin-Nagant, both variants, infantry, which has iron sights, and marksman, which has a scope, no mount, and the Nagant revolver, along with many others like the Fedor of Avdomat for the medic class, which is a precursor to the modern assault rifle. They were added in DLC number 2 in the Name of the Tsar, which covers maps from the Brusilov offensive of 1916 prior to the Russian Revolution of the late 1910s, early 20s. This particular map, Tsaritsyn, is now known as, it's a real city, it's now called Volgograd. Before that it was called Stalingrad, and it got its name from Stalin's defence of the city during the Civil War, back when it was called Tsaritsyn, and definitely, in my opinion, the best map in the whole game. You've got wide open options, you've got the urban environment, or you've got the close quarters in the big cathedral at the centre of the map, which is where I spawned in at the start of the video. And it is just chaos. It is everything you want in a Battlefield game. You've got the large maps, the high player count. You can really have a full all-out war. The only thing you're really missing with this map is aircraft, which I think they're a mixed bag in this game. If you put the time in to learn to use them, they're pretty cool, but as an infantry, I think one of the many gripes people have with Battlefield games is you're deep into 1v1 combat, or you're advancing on a position and an artillery truck or a bomber takes you out. whereas in other games you don't have any of that. And if you're looking for other games that take place in World War One, I definitely recommend the World War One series. If you have a love of iron sight sniping or just the weaponry of the time, definitely check out Verdun, Tannenberg and Isonzo in that series. They give you a better look at what World War One was actually like. You have weapons like the aforementioned MP18 or the Chow Chat light machine gun for the French, but they are very limited because that is how they were used. They were around, but they were quite limited, and it's hardcore as well, so unlike Battlefield, it's very much one shot, one kill, or if you're using a pistol, it could be 2 or 3. But certainly, they and Battlefield 1, I think, are fantastic games, and really, this was my first true scale shooter that I ever played back when this came out in 2016, and it was fantastic.